and they've stopped it. Round one, knockout, Jake Paul, El Gallo de Dorado.
Another first-round stoppage for the problem child. He told us round two, but he delivered it 1 round earlier. Outstanding performance from Jake Paul.
Man, Jake set that up with some good offense, jabbing up top, jabbing to the body. That was a perfect setup, man. He had good...
Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson on Netflix. Now, that's a sentence no one expected to say in 2024. Yet here we are, in a world where a YouTuber can face off with a boxing legend, and somehow it all makes sense. The match was set...
Main event of the evening, an 8-round test in the cruiserweight. Let's get ready to rumble!
For November 15th, but in true Netflix style, they dropped it early. Why stick to a normal release schedule when Jake Paul's involved? If you missed it, don't worry, the fight already went down.
The planet. KO punchers of all times, the 2-time heavyweight world champion of the world, Iron Mike Tyson!
This wasn't a hyped-up countdown to a future event. Jake Paul and Mike Tyson clashed at a T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, and Netflix will release it in a few weeks. But right now, you've got the inside scoop on every wild detail. This fight was legendary.
Highly anticipated fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson has a new date. They'll face off in AT&T Stadium on November 5th.
Long before the rest of the world got to see it. The buzz around Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson was insane. Everyone had an opinion, and no one could stop talking about it. Jake Paul, social media...
Everyone has a plan. Until they get punched in the mouth. Yo.
The star turned wannabe boxing king hyped himself louder than ever, swaggering into press conferences and making everyone wonder if his ego had finally taken a few too many hits. Then there was Mike Tyson, the myth, the legend, the human wrecking ball. Even at 58, he could strike fear into anyone with just a look. It was a clash of generations, personalities, and skill that had everyone on edge. Tyson entered the ring like he was about to turn it into his personal playground, a reminder to everyone that a true legend never fades. His mere presence was enough to make even the cockiest of challengers break a sweat. You had these two polar opposites, Jake Paul, the flashy, loudmouth disruptor, and Mike Tyson, the quiet storm, both facing off under the blinding lights of one of the world's largest stadiums. And let me tell you, words don't do it justice. Seeing Mike Tyson live at 58 is like stepping into a different reality. The moment he walked into the arena, it felt as if the air itself got heavier.
To play and handle the Mike Tyson thing correctly, because the visuals were bad. And when you're dealing in a world of optics, it's very relevant. And Tyson versus Paul would likely be on July 20th. It would likely be on had they not put out the fake press release in the first place. When they put out this watered down, dumb press release.
His muscles were still freakishly defined, like he'd defied the natural laws of aging and gravity. On paper, he's 58, but one look at him, and you'd swear he was a force beyond time, a modern Greek god refusing to yield to age. Trust me, Tyson didn't just roll out of bed and hope for the best. He's been grinding in the gym like his life depended on it, combining his old-school brutality with high-tech training wizardry. We're talking cutting-edge workouts, sparring sessions that would make seasoned fighters wince, and drills that had veteran coaches raising their eyebrows.
Has some power.
Now think about the contrast. Jake Paul's been living his best influencer life, vlogging, pranking, and stirring up drama like the internet's favorite chaos magnet. Meanwhile, Tyson's been in beast mode, laser-focused, transforming himself with an intensity you'd expect from someone half his age. It's a clash of lifestyles, disciplines, and pure grit. This wasn't just about...
10 days, baby. 10 days.
Without getting ripped, Tyson's bone-crunching power was still there, and experts whispered this older, more refined Tyson was somehow even scarier. His punches were like surgical strikes, still packing the devastating force to end a fight in a blink. Jake and his team clearly hadn't prepared for just how terrifying that could be. Then there was Tyson's mindset, a complete reinvention. Calm, focused, and relentless, it was as if he'd etched a singular purpose into his soul destruction.
And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing 83.6.
Every move, every subtle gesture, every moment leading up to the fight exuded that intensity. This wasn't just a comeback, it was a mission. When the bell rang, it was clear Tyson was there for blood. If you've seen him in his prime, you'd recognize that look: intense, calculating, reading Jake like an open book, and waiting for that perfect opening. Tyson didn't need a flurry of punches, he was hunting for the right punch, the one that would change everything. Patiently, he let Jake burn through his energy, knowing time was on his side. The seasoned master was about to remind Jake Paul why legends never truly fade, and that it's always the calm before the storm that should terrify you. Then came my favorite round.
Undefeated, the problem child.
2. The atmosphere shifted as Mike Tyson, who'd spent the first round treating Jake like an amusing warm-up, decided it was time to get serious. No more playing around, this was hunt mode. You could practically hear the jaws of the trap snapping shut as Iron Mike closed the distance between himself and his cocky opponent. His movements were sharp, his focus locked, and Jake suddenly found himself in deep waters. Tyson's power, experience, and unbreakable mindset were all unleashed, and the young challenger realized he was in the presence of a true legend. Tyson's footwork was pure poetry, gliding across the canvas with a calm precision, every movement calculated. His eyes locked onto Jake's every twitch, every shuffle, and the tension was thick enough to cut. The crowd collectively leaned in, knowing something huge was about to happen. Then came the moment, the one now looping on TikTok in slow motion, complete with dramatic sound effects. Tyson unleashed a left hook so brutal it felt like the whole stadium shook. This wasn't some average punch, it was a haymaker that would make any 90s heavyweight champ take notice. The impact, a sickening, bone-rattling crack, echoed through the arena like a firework, sending shivers down every spine. Tyson had shown in one powerful move exactly why he's a legend. Jake Paul didn't just get hit, he got rocked. His knees buckled, nearly giving out, and the look on his face was priceless, a mix of shock, disbelief, and regret, like he'd just realized he'd made some serious life choices. The crowd...
And they've stopped it! Round 1, knockout, Jake Paul El Gallo de Dorado!
Another first-round stoppage for the problem child. He told us round 2, but he delivered it 1 round earlier. Outstanding performance from Jake Paul.
Man, Jake set that up with some good offense, jabbing up top, jabbing to the body. That was a perfect setup, man. He had good...
The crowd went wild, gasping and covering their mouths, fully aware they'd just witnessed something insane. Jake stumbled, trying to shake it off, but you could see the swagger drain right out of him. The guy who'd strutted into the ring full of bravado now looked like he was rethinking this whole taking on Iron Mike thing. Meanwhile, Tyson was in full beast mode. His eyes were cold, focused, sensing blood in the water. Jake was wobbling, trying to put on a brave face, but everyone could see it, he was vulnerable, and Tyson knew exactly what to do with that. By round 3, Jake Paul was a walking mess. Tyson's relentless left jab had shredded his defenses, and it was only a matter of time. Tyson's hook had done serious damage, and Jake was slowing down. His movements lost that early bounce, his punches weakened, and his defenses were barely holding up. The sharp jabs he'd thrown at the start now looked like flimsy, desperate swats. Tyson, however, was relentless, pressing forward like a freight train with no intention of stopping. He cornered Jake, cutting off any chance of escape, and the crowd held its breath, sensing the inevitable. With a masterful sense of timing, Tyson delivered the grand finale, a punishing uppercut that landed with brutal precision. In that moment, it was clear Jake had run out of tricks, and Tyson had sealed the fight. Tyson's shot to Jake's ribs left him visibly wincing. His guard dropping for just a second, Tyson seized with a monstrous right hand, landing square on Jake's jaw.
like
Down
the
he
entire
went,
stadium shook.
crashing to the
We're not
canvas like a
talking
felled
about your
tree.
run-of-the-mill punch.
The sound
This
of
was the
impact
kind of
was
haymaker that
bone-chilling,
would make a
and for
heavyweight
moment,
champ
the
from
entire
the
stadium
90s
was
sit
silent
up
in
and
shock.
take notice.
Then,
The
an
sound?
explosion of cheers
A
filled the
sickening,
air as fans
bone-rattling
realized
crack
they had
that
just
echoed
witnessed
like a
Jake Paul
firework
being
and sent
taken down
shivers
by a
down
true
spines.
legend. The experts had been right. As much as Jake's fans had hoped for an upset, the seasoned voices of boxing saw it coming. Analysts like Joe Rogan, who doesn't throw out opinions lightly, had broken down exactly why Tyson would dominate well before the first bell. And they were right, it was the perfect clash of legend and challenger. Rogan analyzed Tyson's recent training clips, highlighting that the legendary heavyweight still packed devastating power. "Look at Tyson at 58," Rogan said on his podcast. "His punches are just as terrifying as they were back in the day." He'd witnessed Tyson land shots in training that could shake the soul of younger fighters. Despite this, many Jake Paul loyalists dismissed it as hype. Then there was Michael Bisping, the former UFC middleweight champion, who voiced his concerns. Bisping, having seen his fair share of combat sports hype, wasn't buying the idea that Jake could easily handle a monster like Tyson. "It's absurd," Bisping said. "You're putting a guy with limited experience against a legend." The warning signs were there, but not everyone was listening. A 27-year-old YouTuber going up against a man who still trains like a savage, Bisping emphasized Tyson's head movement and defensive skills were still sharp, as if he'd never stopped fighting. His analysis focused on how, despite Jake's hustle and ambition, he might not be ready for the brutal reality of facing a legend who's done it all. Many experts shared similar predictions, and almost all of them proved spot on. There's a reason we call them experts. If you expected the same outcome, let us know in the comments below.